Good morning, everyone. Just let the last few people find their seats. So good morning, welcome to Uppsala and the first big ENLIGHT meeting. Today we are about 150 people in this room, representing external partners, students, researchers, teachers, and project management staff. And this morning we're also delighted to include a number of people who are joining us via live streaming this event. So we're more than the people that we can see in this room. But those of you who are here, it's lovely to really see real people and not just Zoom faces. And I look forward to meeting many of you over the next coming days properly. My name is Martha Middlemiss-Lemon. I'm one of the academic coordinators for ENLIGHT here at Uppsala University. And today my role as moderator is to guide us through the programme and introduce our speakers. We are gathered today to focus on the theme of sustainable urban development, and the sessions later today will focus on that, as will our opening talks this morning. This meeting has been organised by Uppsala University, but in close collaboration with the National University of Ireland and Galway. And from both Uppsala and Galway, we'd very much like to thank all of you for taking the time and effort to come and attend. And we hope we'll all get some exciting discussions out of the coming few days. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Professor Koko Norén, who's Pro-Vice Chancellor of Uppsala University, who will welcome you all to Uppsala.
Thank you, Martha. So, Mr. Ambassador, I know I have you with us on streaming line, and Mr. Mayor Erik Pelling, distinguished professors, colleagues, guests, and students, dear friends. On behalf of Uppsala University, I would like to greet you heartily welcome to this European dialogue. It's really a premiere, and I'm so happy to see you all. This is the first time that we meet in a room, and it is the first time that I actually meet people in real life a little bit broader than some of you that I have met in some Zoom meetings. So I suppose that you have all been to workshops and seminars before, and you have heard a representative from the host university telling you about how fantastic the university is. I thought that I might spare you that introduction. I can only tell you that we are a comprehensive university, and we are the oldest one in the Nordic countries, and we were founded in 1477. So if ever you run into a locked door with a code pass, you might try 1477. It works surprisingly often, to the big frustration of our security unit. So we know how this started. When Macron made his speech about European universities in September at the Université de Sorbonne. And you all know by heart what he said. He said this: Je propose la création d'universités européennes qui seront un réseau d'universités de plusieurs pays d'Europe, mettant en place un parcours où chacun de leurs étudiants étudiera à l'étranger et suivra des cours dans 2 langues au moins. Des universités européennes qui seront aussi des lieux d'innovation pédagogique et de recherche d'excellence. And even if you don't know French, you know what he said. He had a vision about the university alliances, and now, 5 years later, we are here to make it real. Our response was to create the ENLIGHT University Network, and you know that it consists of our 9 universities. And I know that in our various working groups, we have all tried to find constructive ways to cooperate and to cut red tape. There is still plenty to do, but within ENLIGHT, we have now reached a point where we are able to address the real shared issues, and Uppsala is so honored to host this event on the theme of sustainable urban development, accompanied by a little song. No problem. We are known to be a little bit formal at Uppsala University, and I try to break that image. So we all remember that the challenges that we are facing, our countries and our cities, are of course not unique. As you know, most nations in Europe are working hard to reduce carbon dioxide, but as you are all aware, we are not doing this fast enough. We are in a hurry and we have to be creative. And now this, a lot of answers, the knowledge and solutions can be found in our ranks. What we do is highly important and we must strive to be a model for others to follow. Our 9 universities are of course different, and I think that we should acknowledge this. We have our own traditions and strengths, we come from different cultures, and we have all our own history and experiences. But our task is also to overcome this and to really use it as an asset, because complex questions need complex answers, and I truly believe our diversity and our breadth can contribute to that. But at the same time, we are very much alike. We share this ambition together to provide answers to and solutions for tomorrow's society and humanity. And we cannot do this by ourselves, so we need each other. We also share the characteristic to be universities integrated in a city and working in symbiosis with the city. And Uppsala University collaborates intensively with the public and the private sector in the region. And I would like to take the opportunity to especially thank our mayor, Mr. Erik Pelling, for the close collaboration that we have with the city. The ENLIGHT universities, and perhaps this is my most important point, is also that we share what the Commission likes to call European identity, but I would prefer to call it human basic values, such as academic freedom and the autonomy of universities, and in more general terms, the defense of the freedom of opinion, the freedom of speech, and democracy. So, do we have any weaknesses? We have a lot of potential. I don't see any sharp weaknesses, except for the fact that somebody with a very good memory came up with a project name. I challenge you to tell me what ENLIGHT stands for. But just a little reminder, it stands for European University Network to promote equitable quality of life, sustainability and global engagement through higher education transformation. But it rhymes in the end, that's good. I'm a linguist, by the way. And so I think that ENLIGHT is a very powerful acronym, and its meaning is, of course, to light something or shed light upon. And I'm sure that this is what will happen during the 2 days that we have before us. So creativity will flow and new ideas for courses and collaborations will be discussed. And if we play this right, and I'm sure we will do, we can make a little bit of history, and we will also have a very good time together here in Uppsala. So thank you very much, and once again, heartily welcome to Uppsala University.
Thank you, Coco. And now I'd like to give the word to Mr. Erik Pelling, who is Mayor of the City of Uppsala.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me start by posing you some questions. Which city in the world won in 2018 the One City Challenge as the most climate-friendly city in the world? From which city in the world do famous scientists like Carl von Linné and Celsius come from? And from which city does the former UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld come? And from where, and perhaps most important, from where comes the first female Prime Minister of Sweden, Magdalena Andersson? The answer to all these questions is, of course, Uppsala. And as the mayor of Uppsala, I see it as one of my tasks, an important one, to actually brag about Uppsala, as I just did. And it's actually quite easy to brag about Uppsala and about Uppsala University. I could also say that Astrid Lindgren, ABBA, and IKEA all came from Uppsala. But that would actually be a lie. It's not true. But we do actually have a large IKEA store in the outskirts of Uppsala if you want to visit after the meeting. Anyhow, as the mayor of Uppsala, I would like to wish you very much welcome to Uppsala. I'm very glad that we can meet like this and not in Zoom or Teams anymore. And I also hope that you will have time to explore this beautiful city outside the conference while you are here. You are here at a very beautiful time of the year when everything is in full bloom. In Sweden we call it the time between Hawthorn and Lilac, mellan hägg och syren. It's a very short and beautiful time of the year, and it's much more nice to be here in this time than in November, for example. So congratulations to that. The topic of today's conference is collaboration between cities and universities. This is a topic of great importance for the city of Uppsala, and we greatly value the collaboration that we have with Uppsala University and with our other university, the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, which lies over there. Uppsala is the fourth biggest city of Sweden, and the city is growing at a very high speed. It is an attractive city to live, study and work in. We see that on a growing number of students, for example. But a growing city like Uppsala also faces a lot of challenges. We need to build new houses, schools, sport facilities, cultural facilities, and better and expanded public transportation. And most importantly, we need to do that in a sustainable and climate-friendly way. And for all this new technology that needs to be developed and put in use, and when we are going to create a city that is well integrated, where people feel safe and people and businesses can thrive, we need knowledge, research and innovation from people like you. So what could be better than to have access to all that at your doorstep, as we have in Uppsala with two universities? But at the same time, I believe that the researchers and innovators like you are also dependent on trying out your ideas and to be able to utilize the research in real life. And so it's mutual, and it's a win-win situation when the university of a city and the city can cooperate and collaborate. And today in Uppsala we have a well-established and well-functioning collaboration and cooperation between Uppsala University and the city of Uppsala. And this cooperation must not be taken for granted, of course. It's something that we have worked very hard for a long time. It costs also money, but it's possible to achieve. And not me, but some colleagues of me will later on today present for you how the city of Uppsala and the University of Uppsala works together and collaborate. And me and my colleagues, which are present in this room, we look, of course, forward to listening and learn from all of you on your collaboration and other positive examples from all these beautiful cities that you represent and your universities. So once again, thank you for letting me speak to you, and welcome to Uppsala. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now I leave the floor to Professor Becky Way, who is Vice President International of the National University of Ireland, Galway, and is also currently Chair of the ENLIGHT Directors Board.
you very much. It is, of course, a real pleasure to be here, to welcome you all and to be part of opening up this meeting. It really is unbelievably special for us to all be in a room together after the digital start to ENLIGHT. So it's great to be able to say a few words of welcome to open this regional academy. And we're all here because we know how important the topics under discussion are. And I want to start by saying it is fantastic that we can come together and that we can talk about these issues. But more importantly, we need to go away from a meeting like this with lots of intention, lots of enthusiasm and lots of determination to take forward activities and learnings and things to do from coming together as we are. The ENLIGHT Alliance really exemplifies our collective commitment to openness and diversity and the creation of international opportunities for our students and our staff, as well as the opportunity to connect us all across our ENLIGHT cities and regions. So at NUI Galway, we of course want to excite our students and staff and attract them to engage with world-class partners such as yourselves, and to be able to better contribute to the broader transformations that need to take place at local, national and global levels. And of course, we're not alone in that. That's why we're all here together in this room. And this academy marks this important step for all of us in building these connections and interactions and realising the potential that we all saw when ENLIGHT was forming of interconnecting our 9 regions together. So really my job here is to say some thank yous, and what I would like to do is thank our keynote speakers who are going to be joining us. Ambassador Kim Woo-soon, who is a board member from the Ban Ki-moon Centre, who will be joining us, and Dr. Federer van Huys, who's head of division of Society's Climate and Policy Support at the Stockholm Environment Institute. But also, we really need to acknowledge the enormous amount of work that colleagues in Uppsala have done in preparing for this meeting and bringing everyone together. So thank you to Erika Davinka, and the ENLIGHT team at Uppsala, in particular Jonathan Schalk, who was supported by Björn Nystrom, Amelia Zelinskate, Helene Backman, and thank you also to Dr. Martha Middlemas-Lemon, who is moderating for us this morning. And my apologies for mutilating your surname so appallingly, but I am trying. At NUI Galway, we've been privileged to partner with this team in organising this event and generally in bringing together the outreach work package for ENLIGHT. So that's been a great opportunity for us to work together as 2 universities quite closely within the ENLIGHT organisation. And it also meant that we get to meet some of the fantastic Uppsala student ambassadors who've been assisting you this morning and will continue to do so throughout the 2 days. So thank you to them as well. A special word of thanks also to the Uppsala University Innovation Office, and in particular Dr. Jenny Nordquist, who's head of the Innovation Partnership Office and who is moderating the session this afternoon, and her colleague Annette Presson-Stash, for supporting the AIM Day that's going to take place tomorrow and that we're very, very excited to see in action. Thanks also to our external partners from all of our ENLIGHT regions who've travelled with us to join us for this dialogue. Your presence and engagement with ENLIGHT makes this event meaningful, and we look forward to deepening our relationships through the discussions over these 2 days and beyond. And as I say, we really hope that we close this event with lots of feeling of urgency and forward momentum to take forward what has been discussed and agreed on during this event. A special word of thanks to our NUI Galway external partners from Galway City Council, the Western Development Commission and Galway Chamber, who are also all contributing to this event today. I hope that all of you enjoy a fantastic programme that's been put together to facilitate the development of education and research with ENLIGHT. So now I'm going to hand back to Martha and wish us all a brilliant 2 days. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Becky. So without further ado, we move to the first of our 2 keynote speakers. We are honoured to welcome today Ambassador Kim Won-soo, who is joining us remotely. So unfortunately, those of us in the room don't get to see him in person, but he will appear on our screens in a short moment. Ambassador is advisor to the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, a board member of the Ban Ki-moon Center, which is one of the partners in the ENLIGHT project. He's also chair of the International Advisory Board Future Consensus Institute and Director General for Policy Planning and as Ambassador for Regional Cooperation at the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And with all that experience and knowledge with him, he will be talking to us today on the title, Smart Cities, Small is Beautiful. So warm welcome, Ambassador. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Morning to you all at Uppsala University in Sweden from a good afternoon here in Korea. Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Koko Noren, Mayor of Uppsala Mr. Eric Pelling, Professor Becky Way, Vice President International, National University of Ireland, Galway, distinguished professors, guests, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm deeply honored and thrilled to be asked to speak today at the inaugural event of ENLIGHT European Dialogue for the Sustainable Urban Development. Mayor Pelling just reminded me of the fact that what an opportunity I missed to visit your beautiful campus at a beautiful time of the season. But I hope I can have a rain check, maybe pandemic check, to visit your campus in the near future. But still, it is very great to meet you all online. Before I start, I want to say 3 things. First, I thank the 3 speakers, Professor Noren, Mayor Pelling, and Professor Way, for their inspirational yet witty speeches. Secondly, my deep gratitude should also go to today's host, Uppsala University, and its able team, Jonathan and Björn, to put every detail perfectly in place. I'm very happy to join today on behalf of the 2 institutions I'm working for, Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens in Vienna, Austria, and the Future Consensus Institute, Taeje Academy in Seoul, Korea. And I saved the best for last. I'm immensely grateful to our audience, teachers, researchers, and students, along with representatives from cities, for your participation today. I'm also eagerly awaiting the excellent output to be made by the project management staff, who are just challenged to build the infrastructures to make this collaboration work. Distinguished professors, guests, students, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 pandemic has caused global disruptions in all aspects of human life. It also slowed down the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. SDG 11, urban development, is no exception. According to a 2018 UN report, about 70% of humanity are expected to live in urban areas by 2050. Urban expansion is vital and unavoidable to our life. For the last 30 years, Asia has led the global urbanization. Megacities have sprawled in Asia, particularly China. They contributed to phenomenal economic development. Unfortunately, however, they also emerged as the main culprits of compounding the global unsustainability crisis. For the last 30 years, the number of new megacities with a population over 10 millions, increased to 25, out of which 16 new megacities came from Asia, accounting for the 2/3 of the total. For the next 30 years, Asia and Africa will lead the global urbanization, accounting for 90%. As urbanization has reached its peak in the rest of the world, particularly developed world, 500 millions from China will still come to the cities, while 2.5 billions from India and the rest of Asia, as well as 300 millions from Africa, will do the same. If the current trends continue, all these people are likely to move to the megacities. This will be a global disaster. It will accelerate the global warming as the world's top 25 megacities account for 25% of greenhouse gas emission by all cities. It will also accelerate the socio-economic inequality as the skyrocketing living and housing costs in megacities are bound to make the poor poorer and rich richer. Urban slums in megacities have become the source of socio-economic dystopia. Even the pandemic hit the socially weak and economically poor much harder. If things go unchanged, our old and healthy communities of neighbors and families will be threatened, which may forebode the unfortunate beginning of the end of human civilization. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to prepare for the better future, we must learn from the recent past. First, megacities should not be replicated, but rehabilitated. We must work hard to reduce excesses of megacities, including greenhouse gas emission, pollution, and rising inequality. We must turn existing megacities away from the source of problems to the path of solutions. Secondly, we must design new models for future cities. New cities must be built to be human-centric and nature-friendly, making them sustainable. Putting people and planet center and upfront is the basis of the 2030 Global Sustainability Agenda. New models for future cities must be fundamentally different from the past. Here, I want to argue small is beautiful. Small and smart city by digital transformation and better governance can enhance the quality of life and competitiveness despite the cheaper living and other social costs relative to megacities. Small cities will allow us to catch two birds with one stone. They will provide Asia and Africa with new urban solutions. They will also help the existing megacities in the world rectify the socio-economic excesses. We must devise a new urbanization model for Asia and Africa. New models for smart cities must be small and networked. But this is easier said than done. Unless we make small cities attractive, people will not come to them. The main challenge is how to ensure the quality of life and the competitiveness of small cities. Digital infrastructure will enable the provision of the high-quality health, education, and other social public services to small cities. Citizens may feel as if they live in the center of a megacity thanks to the ubiquitous untapped services. I believe the key to high competitiveness lies in the trinity of the academia, business, city government to work together. I would call it the holy trinity for future cities. It will produce synergy much greater than the sum of three sectors. Through this trinity, small cities can be a mecca for young startups, which will translate academic work into business with the support of the city government. I want to salute today's event, ENLIGHT European Dialogue, as an excellent example of promoting this crucial enabler of the Holy Trinity. Above all, the members of ENLIGHT represent this best. Basque, Bordeaux, Bratislava, Galway, Ghent, Göttingen, Groningen, Tartu, and Uppsala. When these names shine brighter than megacities, the world will become more sustainable. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Europe is doing better than the rest of the world in urbanization. Europe has a lot to offer as better urban solutions for the sustainable future. Most cities in Europe are not too big nor too small. They are well connected and networked to other cities. They are competitive with a decent quality of life. Many cities are already practicing the Holy Trinity of academia, business, and the city government alliance. Europe can help Asia and Africa devise a small, smart, and sustainable model for future cities. This is a win-win proposition for the whole world. It will be not easy. It will be a long and arduous journey. It will require creativity and collaboration. It is doable only when we work together. I thank you so much for your attention. I hope today's event will mark the beginning of our joint journey to make future cities a better and safer place for us all to live in. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for a both sobering but also inspiring presentation to set us off this morning. We have a few minutes for questions, if there are any questions or comments. The Ambassador's said that he's happy to take a couple of questions. So if anyone has anything they'd like to elaborate on or questions to ask, then please feel free, raise your hand, and we will see if we can get a microphone to you. Thank you, Becky. If you would like to, if you look towards that camera, then the Ambassador will be able to, you can talk to him.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Sorry, I'm talking into a yellow box, which is a bit disconcerting. Thank you so much for that fascinating insight. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on your thoughts about how we step backwards from the massive growth in megacities and how the megacities that already exist can move towards a more sustainable model. I know it's a huge question, but a few thoughts on that would be fascinating.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, it is a very big question. I wish I have a crystal ball to offer a clear solutions. But I think we have twofold tests. On the one hand, we have to work harder to reduce the excesses, the symptoms of dystopia growing in megacities, particularly new megacities which have sprawled in Asia and other parts of the world. So that must be the ongoing priority. That requires a lot of work and also collaboration between private, public, and business sectors. And at the same time, we have to think harder about what kind of alternative, better model for the future cities newly built rather than repeating what we have been doing to bring people to megacities and make it even bigger and bigger. So I hope Europe can help Asia and Africa to build new cities for the future, urbanization, small, smart, and sustainable. And there, I think Europe has a lot to offer to Asia and Africa. You may come up with a new design for small and networked cities, and then maybe you can test it in Europe and share it. Share your best practices and lessons learned from those models, and then maybe Europe can form an alliance with Asia and Africa to build future cities with a better model for the future.
Thank you very much. Sorry, forgot the microphone. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Right at the back there, thank you. Jonathan, can you throw that far?
Can you help me?
The microphone's just making its way back to the speaker here, I must.
Hello, hi. Thank you very much,
You're
Mr.
tossing the
Ambassador, and
microphone.
thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes,
Thank you very much
yeah,
for your
I
very
can hear you very
informative
well.
and very wonderful speech. During your speech, you mentioned many times, like in China, because in Asian regions we have many cities are facing the same problems, the transition of a lot of mega cities. And I'm originally from China. At this moment, I'm working as postdoc researcher at Ghent University. Meanwhile, I'm also working for a competitor of Uppsala University. I'm also working part-time at Lund University. So I know how beautiful the small cities in Europe are. So, and you mentioned many times that Europe can help, especially can help Asian countries for solving those problems of the mega cities and how to build the small and beautiful cities. But my question is about what as Asian countries, as Asian mega cities, what we can learn from the European models, from the European experience. You mentioned many times Europe can help. And what about how our Asian countries can help each other? For example, today here we have the European Dialogue about the sustainable urban development. And when will we Asian countries have the Asian Dialogue on the same topic? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I absolutely agree with your suggestion. Asia should begin to work together because most of the megacities have sprawled in Asia, across Asia. And now Asian countries in the Indian subcontinent, in South Asia, are following the suit what China, Korea, and other East Asian countries did. So the East Asian countries also have a lot to offer to the countries in South and other parts of Asia, because the greater number of people, Asians, will come to the cities for the next 30 years. So I think India and the South Asian countries may be the number one in terms of urbanization for the next 30 years. So you are absolutely right in suggesting that countries in East Asia which move to urbanization earlier than the rest of Asia also has to share their knowledges, lessons learned, and best practices with other parts of Asia where urbanization will pick up for the next 30 years. And also, I think we have to think about how we can help Africa as well, because we'll have population explosion in Africa, because birth rate there is far higher than the rest of the world, even including Asia. Many countries in East Asia now, birth rate is falling down, even below the average of OECD countries, but still birth rate is very high in Africa. So East Asia, I hope, helps South Asia and also Africa. And there, I think, particularly countries in East Asia, China, Korea, Japan, have a lot to work together, and then come up with the mechanism to help countries in other parts of Asia and Africa. And of course, we can also partner with European countries for that purpose, because as the previous speakers have emphasized, these are global challenges. Global challenges require global solutions. One country or one organization, no matter how resourceful or powerful they are, cannot do this job alone. So we have to come up with a global mechanism to think and also practice global solutions to global challenges. Because the 17 Sustainable Development Goals represent the problems we have in each of the 17 areas. Although UN describe it as goals, but it represents the global unsustainability crisis we have in each area, each of the 17 areas. And it means that the challenges are great and many, and solutions will be very difficult to find. But one brighter side is that because all these 17 challenges, goals, are interconnected, if we find a solution to one, it may provide solutions to other challenges and other goals. So challenges are interconnected, but also solutions can be interconnected. So that's why the coping with these challenges require collaboration between the countries, but also across the areas, across the goals, across the challenges. So I very much like today's theme, ENLIGHT, and I take it as coalition of the academic institutions, city governments, and also civil society. And I hope this model can be replicated in Asia as well. So as you just asked, I hope Asian countries will also find a way to come up with our own version of public-private partnership to tackle sustainability challenges in the future, starting from urban development.
Thank you very much. We have time for one last short question, and the microphone's already made its way.
Hello, my name is Tina Karen Pusse. I'm originally from Germany, but I'm now teaching environmental humanities at NUI Galway. I agree with your analysis that the trend to megacities was the wrong one. But however, since so many investments have already been made in these cities, I wonder, would there be a third way of just restructuring these cities into smaller self-containing units, perhaps with green areas in between, to let them, basically to thin them out through a more kind of natural process, like investing in green belts between quarters, improving living conditions, etc., limiting the sprawl into the further countryside. Would that not be the better strategy in terms of sunk investment costs that have already been made in these areas. When I don't have many experiences with really mega cities, but when I look at the biggest city I've ever been in, that's Berlin. That's of course a tiny village compared to the cities you are talking about. But living in Berlin does not feel like living in a big city. The quarters are more like urban villages, and the feel is not that of living in a mega city with slums all around. And the biggest problem with megacities, I think, is the metabolism that is associated to it, that people who have to work in them cannot afford to live in them, and then they have longer commutes, which is exactly what you want to avoid when you move into a city, etc. But I think that could be mitigated within the megacity as well.
Yes, you are right. I mean, problems in megacities are complex. And also, it is very clear for each megacity, history and development pattern is different. So there is no one-size-fits-all solution for megacities. So I believe each megacity has to find solutions best tailored to the problems they have. And some cities in the developing part of Asia, the huge urban slum is maybe the first priority they have to tackle. But in the megacities, in the more developed part of Asia, have different sets of problems. Traffic congestion, longer commute time, but I believe the digital transformation, which has come closer to our life, I think is one of the paradox of the COVID-19 pandemic. We realize many things can be done online, like I'm doing today with you, because I never thought of doing this online without traveling to Uppsala University. So I think we are also now learning which parts of our daily life can be done more efficiently by digital technology, but maybe other parts may still need in-person contacts. So I think each city will try to find a policy mix of the solutions which best tailored to meet challenges unique to each megacity. And as you said, big cities in Europe, I agree with you that wherever I go, I always feel much more comfortable, because megacities in Asia with too tight population density, it creates a lot of problems because we are wasting too much time on road, and most of the cars remain parked. Still, people buy cars. I hope the Asians can change our lifestyle, switching from cars to bicycles or more nature-friendly ways of commute, or even walk. So I think we can learn a lot from each other. And also, as countries in Asia, and now maybe for the next 30 years, Africa also will face the same urbanization problems. And I hope we can help them adopt a better, more sustainable models of urban development. And I think the latecomers also have an advantage, because that means a latecomer can reduce the likelihood of trials and errors, because we can compare different models and we can choose the best model we think of. So I think still Europe has a lot to help, because you move ahead in urbanization earlier than the rest of the world, and now even you are turning your cities into a more human-centric and nature-friendly place to live in, and that model itself is I think an inspiration, should be an inspiration to Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So I hope you can help us in our journey for the better future for us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for a lot of food for thought that we will take with us into the coming days' discussions. We say goodbye to you now on the Zoom link, but my colleagues will send over the live stream link if you have the time and inclination to follow the rest of this session. But thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in person.
We too. We hope it won't always just be Zoom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And so we move on here in the room to our second keynote speaker presentation. We are very happy to have Dr. Fedra van Guus in the room with us, who will speak to us on the theme of sustainable cities, the importance of collaboration. Fedra is Head of Division of Societies, Climate and Policy Support at Stockholm Environment Institute. And she leads teams of sustainability researchers on the teams of cities, communities and consumption, water, coast and ocean, and environmental policy and strategy. And we're very happy, thank you, that you've come to share with us your experience today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Uppsala University and the ENLIGHT Network for having me here today. I'm very honored to be one of the keynote speakers here on cities, because I love cities. I think cities are the place to be. I think they have high energy, lots of people's ideas, and so I personally love being in a city. I am Head of Division Societies, Climate and Policy Support at the Stockholm Environment Institute, but very recently I also joined Viable Cities as their finance and procurement specialist. Viable Cities is a Swedish innovation program which helps support 23 cities so far within Sweden in becoming more sustainable. We are focusing quite a bit on climate neutrality, and I will talk a bit about that later. I really appreciated what Ambassador said before about megacities. Actually, before moving to Stockholm, I lived in a couple megacities myself. I lived in London for 6 years, I lived in Manila for 5, and in Beijing for a year. But originally, I'm from Belgium, in case you were wondering where the accent is from. And I'm an alumni of the University of Ghent, so I'm very happy to have the people from Ghent here also today. As part of today's presentation, so the aim is to talk about sustainable cities, the importance of collaboration. So I thought first to look at where are we in terms of sustainability? Ambassador spoke a lot about the challenges in Asia and upcoming challenges in Africa, but I would say in Europe, we also have quite some work to do. This is a report from the Eurostat with the progress made on the SDGs in between 2014 and 2020. And so if you look at, it's an arrow that goes up. The majority of the SDGs, we have made some progress. The ones that the research showed that had made most progress or significant progress was SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 3 on good health, and SDG 16 on peace. This was all done before the pandemic hit and before the war in Ukraine hit. So I would say progress on those three, probably I would not say so. There's also two that they did not measure, SDG 6 and 14, which are related to water. And very recently in April, the 6th planetary boundary related to fresh water was exceeded. So we are no longer in the safe space when it comes to water, aside from 5 others that we already exceeded. So overall, quite a bleak picture when you look at sustainability. Now, why cities? Wait, sorry, I went too quickly there. Because that Eurostat report did say on SDG 11, which is related to sustainable cities and communities, that there was progress on SDG 11. They said that trends concerning quality of life have been clearly favorable in European cities. So I would say to all you people working in cities and working for cities, some work is paying off. If I look at my own hometown, sorry, I'm figuring out, yes, next slide. My hometown is in Belgium. It's a small city with 29,000 citizens. We have a lake and a natural reserve, which is super nice. We have a world-renowned cycling race, the E3 prize, for people who like cycling. And we have a cultural event every year, the Day of the Words. It's a poetry day. It was actually started by my father, but the first one coincided with my mother giving birth to me and my twin sister. So unfortunately, he did not attend his own event. That said, even though my hometown has many nice things, it does struggle quite a bit. And I think it's challenges that you see in other cities across Europe, but everywhere. Population is growing, but the household constellation changes. People get older, and there's more single households. Before you would have mother, father, several children in a house. Now, life's changed. Mobility. 67% of people in my hometown prefer using a car for transport. There's limited active transport, walking, cycling, even though we have a cycling race. And there's lack of public transport. This is not just in my hometown. In Stockholm, where I've lived since the past 4 years, 1 in 3 households has a car. There's more needs for social services, I think, especially with the pandemic being hit. It has an effect on income and on ability to work. And in terms of energy, switching from fossil fuels to renewable, there's a challenge, but there's also a challenge with green spaces. And I think for Belgium, which is a 50th of Sweden, we have the same population, so population density is a lot higher, but there's also a lot more concrete. And so with climate change and more rainfall, but also more heat waves, I think tackling the level of concrete within cities is a big challenge. And I'm very happy that Ghent will be talking about the city as a sponge, because I think there's also things we can learn on that. But so overall, many challenges for cities. So how are we now going to solve those challenges, I think, is one of the big things. And I think the way to do it is to see cities as systems. So within a city, you have multiple actors. You have government, citizen, industry, academia, civil society. You have your utility companies, but you also have other government agencies like regional, provincial, national governments, transport ministry, health ministry. They all have roles or functions to perform within the city. They all have certain behaviors and habits. And they also all have assets. When we talk assets, in general, we think about material assets like infrastructures, building, construction. But there's also financial assets, money that you have, loans. Taxation is a form of an asset for the municipal government. But then there's also social capital, the networks that you are in, connections that you have. And all these actors, they operate within a political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental setting. All things that are interconnected. We now see this is a visualization of one city, but we actually have many of these cities. And so between these cities, there's also connections. So to become more sustainable, we need to think of cities as a system, and we need to look at system improvement. So this is the smaller technological improvements, substitution, going from fossil fuel to renewable, for example, reconfiguration. But we then also have system innovation, which is more transformative, de-alignment and realignment. I was going to say maybe Spotify is from Uppsala, I'm not sure, but Spotify has transformed the music industry, whereas before you would buy a CD or even earlier a cassette tape. Now you just download the app and you utilize, you rent music. What is the challenge though with system innovation is that it is a transformation, so they are messy. They go with a lot of conflict, they are highly disjointed and people don't like it. Conflict, I'm yet to meet a person who says, yes, bring on conflict, like it. But one of the ways to go for transformation is exactly bring on board more people. Collaboration is key. Pluralism, different opinions, ideas are central, and tension should not be seen as a problem, but it is an opportunity to think and act beyond solving your technological problems. It is a way to revisualize and envision what the future could look like. Importantly here, though, within transformation, is to look at structures and agency. What are the power relationships? Who gets invited? Who doesn't get invited? Who gets a say and who doesn't? If you look across Europe, and I know that all of you applied to become one of the 100 climate neutral cities of the European Commission, there's now a huge wave for becoming climate neutral. Viable Cities, the strategic innovation program here in Sweden, is part of that Net Zero Cities consortium and is supporting the 112 cities that were selected by the European Commission with this process. How do we do it? It's a process, entails multiple stages, it is learning, but overall the main principles are starting with your current emissions, forecasting what they will be in 2030. Then, in a second step, you define which actions that will help you reduce the emissions within the city. The actions are a combination between behavioral change. Instead of driving my car, I walk, I cycle, I take the bus. Instead of eating meat every day, I might go vegetarian or vegan. Instead of heating my house to 23 degrees, I'm happy with it being 18. If you're like us in Sweden, you might live in a BRF, which is like a housing cooperative, who switches on the heating for you when they want to and when they don't want to. So we have been off the heating where I live since the 1st of April. It's not been warm enough, but hey, we manage. Second thing, technological improvements. So basically insulating your house better, solar panels, hydropower, better engines of things, refrigerators and so on. And then the third one is negative emission technologies or solutions. So a lot of people talk about carbon capture stores and so on, but trees and nature are actually also a technology that could help take up some of the carbon emissions. And then importantly here, you need to look at all the actors in the city, because it won't be enough if one changes behavior and if one takes up a technology, it will be everybody. Because also when you assess the consequences of your strategy, you will need to do two things. First, look at the financial picture. How can we fund it? What funding exists already that we can reroute? What new finance do we need? And who can pay for it? Is it the municipal government? Is it citizens? What civic capital can we raise? But also what kind of private finance can we bring in? Under which conditions? And then also simultaneously, you could look at policy instruments, aligning them with your goal. For example, if the goal would be to get more people on public transports, you could say, let's make it cheaper to take public transport. Let's increase the parking space price. You can tell I don't have a car, I live in the city center, so I think for me, that would be the easiest to do. Schematically, this is what it looks like. Basically, for those of you who like formulas and visualizations. So first, you forecast your emissions by 2030. In your second step, you play with different options. So this is dynamic. And then in your third step, you look at finance and policy instruments. And within your finance, you look at capital needs, but also operational needs. And here we talk operational revenue and costs. For example, what are my avoided costs? If my air pollution goes down because I have less cars in the city, maybe the Ministry of Health can provide some operational revenue, can provide some funds for the city to tackle climate change. Given all these actors and given that we need everybody, collaboration is key because it is a dynamic model. Behavior of one, investment of one, a change in the asset of one impacts what the other people need to do. The options are dynamic, they all have connections, and it requires all the actors in and around the city. And I think importantly, it's also all cities, not the 112 that made it to the list, but every city in Europe and worldwide needs to get on the trajectory because emissions and the atmosphere are shared between all of us. Why is collaboration key? And why do you need to make sure that everyone is on board and invited and there's a combination of different people's opinions? Because it will help you to avoid lock-ins into a certain strategy that might lead you down the wrong path. It could help avoid white elephants and stranded assets. White elephants is often used in developing countries as a challenge that that came with development aid, but it's something that happens everywhere. A white elephant is, for example, an investment in a hospital when you don't have staff for the hospital, when the hospital is not reachable by anybody, and when it's in an area, for example, where there's no citizens, so there is actually no needs for them. Why is it also important to include everybody? Is because the world is getting more unsafe, or there is a feeling of more challenges, and there's more polarization in the world. So unless we include everybody, people will feel disconnected and disempowered. And I don't think that is equal to a sustainable city. So the social is something that we definitely need to think about. If you now think about the how of climate neutral cities and this process, it will take time. And there's different steps in collaboration processes. First, you scope. Do I want to work with them? Who are they? Why are they here? The second step, once you've decided, yeah, maybe this can work, we can collaborate, you are in your initiating phase. And then once you get rolling, then you're in your implementation phase. The relationship will evolve from a transactional relationship, which I think is one that you might have. It's a one-off engagement or very superficial at times with no long-term view, to an integrative, to a transformational relationship, where you build longer-term connections that drive change in society. To do so, you need to get to trustful collaboration, and it requires, at 3 different levels, engagement. As an individual, you need to be curious, you need to be humble and generous, assuming the best in others and not starting from distrust. As a team, the role of a team is to facilitate, to work on a shared purpose, to identify with your own organization, but also the mission of the innovation area. Very importantly, and from a community level, we need committed policymakers. And I think this is why it was so nice with the EU mission, that so many cities and so many mayors said, we want to be in, we want to be part of this, we are politically committed to making climate neutral Europe a reality. So as I said, collaboration requires everybody, so it's mayors. I put some references to studies there that show if a mayor gets involved, things happen. So I would urge for everyone, talk to your mayor, get them involved, because they will be the change maker. They can lead by example. For transformation, you can set up innovation arenas. So Ambassador was talking about the Holy Trinity. I would actually like to make it the quadruple, the Holy Quadruplicity, I think the word could be, because I think the importance of civil society cannot be underestimated. They are the guardians of society, I would say. So I would see universities, government, private sector, plus civil society as key in this process, which entails, first of all, understanding barriers and incentives. Why do people collaborate? Why are they here? What do they want to get out of the process? Is this something we can tailor to? Secondly, then you need to anchor your concepts, your groups and ideas to make sure that you have that shared vision and everyone agrees that you start building that association with the purpose, the climate neutrality. And then in a third step, you can start developing your vision, your plan, and setting your targets. Oftentimes we see, given high enthusiasm, people jump to step 3. Let's go for the plan. Yes, let's do it. But very importantly, it's transformation we want, not business as usual. So very important to start with understanding barriers and incentives and anchoring of the process. There are intermediate organizations and transnational networks that can also help facilitate. Viable Cities is one, but there's also other networks like C40, ICLE. Within every country, there is an association of cities and communities. In Belgium, it's VVSG, so on the Flemish side. So there's definitely a lot of networks that you can engage with. So I would urge you to do so. But if I now think about my own role, so I work for a research institute and now for an intermediary organization. So research institutes and universities play an important role. They are historically one of the places where knowledge is created, where people are educated, traditional role of the university. But I also see a role for them to orchestrate a multi-actor innovation network. Because they are independent, they should not have a political agenda. So out of everybody, out of the 4 in the quadruple helix, government, private sector, civil society, and academia, I think academia and universities are key to drive that process. Why are they also important? Because they can be the guardians. They can ensure that justice is done, and where there's 4 types of justice: distributive, procedural, cosmopolitan, and recognition justice. And so they can ensure that everyone who needs to be at the table can be at the table. Now, for this to happen, of course, it requires quite a bit of skills and characteristics. You need to be impartial, curious, you need to think long-term, you need to be responsive, adaptable, think strategically, you need to have good governance, you need to have close connections with partners. A big ask of universities, but I think you can do it, but a big ask. And I know in the research that I do, at times we are less adaptive, we cannot be as responsive because we have also agendas. At times we are too adaptive, so we forget the direction that we initially intended to take, but it's something that I would want all the universities to think about, your role. So before closing, I wanted to share this number with you. So does anyone know what it is? Anybody? It's the likelihood of being born. So the likelihood that you exist is almost 0. So we are all here. It's a miracle that we are here. It's magic. So I would leave it there. What kind of magic will you do today? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fedra. It almost seems a shame to ask if anyone's got any questions after leaving us on that brilliant challenge. But we have a couple of minutes for questions. There's somebody right at the back there. Jonathan.
I need help.
Great skills.
It just took. Thank you very much for this very clear presentation of a complex situation. I'm Julian from Bordeaux Metropolitan Authority, so I'm more a policy maker than a policy designer. And I totally agree with you with the systemic view of the city and the need to involve all stakeholders. But my question and concern is about timeline, because it does not fit very well with the world environmental emergency, and we also have a social emergency. And I will be very short, but in my job, what I noted over the past 4 or 5 years is that the rise of environmental concern has made us more aware of certain issues and change priorities, but it has also made our job much more bureaucratic, paradoxically. For example, any project, you need to carry out environmental assessment studies, and it takes 2 years just of bureaucratic work. So when I refer to your process consisting of scoping, initiating, implementing process, when we come to implementation, it at least minimum 4 to 6, 7 years time just to start doing. So how can we be ready by 2030?
I think that's a very good comment and question. And I think this is one of the challenges I think that the majority of the cities will face. I think, well, it depends on which emissions. If you talk climate neutral cities, which ones you look at, the easiest one is if you do territorial emissions, which is basically emissions generated within your geographical boundary. If you move all the industry outside of your geographical boundary, potentially problem solved. I don't think that will be the answer, because I think it also comes with then a lot of social challenges. I think it will make the city very unattractive. And so the aim is a climate neutral city, and I would say even a sustainable. Climate neutrality cannot be without social sustainability, I think. So I think it will be important to invest in the negative emission technologies and like focus on behavioral change more than on the mobilizing of the investments, because some of the behavioral changes are relatively small and easy to do. Like I mentioned a couple, public transport, lowering the heating, living smaller if you can. So those things require very limited money. So, and they require very limited bureaucratic processes. I think if you look, but if you want to go larger, for example, I think one of the challenges that we have with cities, or not just cities, I think overall, is the procurement rules and regulations. So it takes time to procure. For governments, it is public. And like by the time you have collected different needs across your city or government agency to have a large enough request for purchase so you can have a say on the market, that doesn't work. So I think a lot of the cities, or it's all too short, all too disjointed and cut up. So I think that will be one of the biggest challenges in changing some of the regulations around and making bureaucratic processes go smoother. And I think maybe one of them could be more research on how we can make that swifter, do more pilots, but see how you can scale the pilots. Because I think one of the things that we did some research on projectification of research. And so here in Sweden, and we saw that a lot of cities now start to get involved in research projects, but they're all short, 3 years, a lot of partners. Very rarely is civil society in those research projects. But it's something to definitely look at. Yeah.
Hold on, we're live streaming, so we need to get the microphone in.
Thanks a lot, sorry. So I think the problem with behavioral changes is that we tend to use the ones that we list, the ones that are very easy for us. So if we already live in a small, well-insulated apartment, it's easy to just turn the thermostat down for a few degrees, but not so much when you live in Ireland, in most of the damp, really not at all insulated houses, for example, or that it's easy to not have a car when you live in an area with good public transport. And we tend to use these often as an excuse to splash out somewhere else. So you often hear people saying, oh, I need my travel, my foreign travel once a year, but therefore I'm a vegetarian, or therefore I'm not having a car, or even people saying like, or I don't have children, therefore I actually have a free card for everything else. This discourse is a bit problematic because we tend to use these reasons to sneak out in other areas. So I think we need more structural changes that don't allow us to do that as often.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. All those reasons. I've also used to fly to go on a holiday and take a plane. Oh, well, I don't eat meat, I don't have a car, I live small. So yeah, it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And I think I am doing another research project on digitalization of food systems. And so in that project, we're looking at how you can use digital technology to improve sustainability. And so we did research with consumers on what would you need to make better food choices. And so they said, oh, as long as we have more information, we will change our behavior. So we then did experiments where we provided people with that information on, hey, this is CO2 on the meat versus the vegetarian. And so it had very limited effect. So I think we need to understand what it will take to change behavior. And I understand the challenge of like living in a rural area and like not owning your own house. I think a lot of the discourse is around for the privileged. I know I'm privileged. I live in the city. I live in a BRF, in a housing association that makes the choices for me. You know, I don't need a car because I can walk to my work. I know that I've been very lucky in that way. So I think it will be important to look also, if we go for climate neutrality, at the social consequence of things and like what we can do and how we can reroute some of the funding, because I think there is enough money in the system. It's just how we distribute it. And maybe it's about making smarter choices in how we allocate the funding and providing incentives for rural communities to insulate, change policies related to water, like in Ireland. I know that Ireland has I think still free water policy. In Sweden, we flush the toilets with drinking water. I think those are some of the things that I think could change as well, if you talk sustainability.
Thank you. I saw loads of hands before, and I know this is a topic that engages everybody, but I'm afraid we have to move on in the programme. I hope Fedra will be able to stay over coffee. So those of you who want to engage her in discussion, please do. And I would like to say thank you very much to you. Normally, this would be the stage of the programme where we would hand you something to take with you as a thank you gift.
Sustainability, no?
But instead of gifts for our speakers today, we are planting 1,200 trees. So we're trying to make a step in the right direction. Oh, not me, thank you. Thank you very much, and apologies for pushing us on in the programme, but I think it's important that we all get our coffee as well. These important things. So now I would like to, at the end of this morning's programme, I would like to give the word to my colleague Ole Bergdahl, who's Collaboration Manager at Uppsala University. And he's going to talk to us today about the collaboration between Uppsala University and the city of Uppsala. And he should have been joined this morning by his colleague from the city in person showing this collaboration, Christian Dahlman, but he's unfortunately ill and wasn't able to join us. But I know he has some colleagues in the room, so if there are questions or if people want to talk to people from the city of Uppsala later, then there are people here who can help Ole out in answering your questions.
Dear all, thank you very much for that introduction. And yeah, as Marta said, if there are any tricky questions about City of Uppsala, there are people here to help me out. Since Viable Cities was mentioned, I also want to say that Uppsala University is coordinating another strategic innovation program, and that is Internet of Things Sweden, which is also one of the 17th strategic innovation programs. And in that I'm the program director for that program, and we also collaborate strongly with Viable Cities and SweLife and the other programs using new technology, key enabling technologies to improve quality of lives and also sustainability. But I'm here today to give you a brief introduction about the strategic partnership between Uppsala University and the city of Uppsala. And I will guide you through this presentation and also talk a little bit about the framework, the principles around the strategic partnership, the key drivers, why are we doing this, and also give you some examples of the outcome from the strategic partnership. I will be here for the rest of the day, so please reach out and connect. And I'm also very keen on learning how you cooperate in your universities with the city administration, and we take it on from there. The mayor started off by bragging a little bit about Uppsala, and my co-pilot, Christian Dahlmans, unfortunately couldn't be here today, so I will send out the message and continue. So just be patient. It's just a few slides about the strength in Uppsala and just to give you some ideas of the characteristics in the Uppsala development. It's a growing labor market, definitely, and the aim from the city administration is creating 3,000 new jobs every year. We have strength in the Uppsala and Uppsala region around life science, materials, and ICT, to mention a few businesses where we have very strong growth. And the strong population growth, it's one of the most expansive regions and the cities in Sweden, or in fact Europe. 100,000 citizens are expected the few coming decades. There are, of course, we have 20,000 companies in Uppsala in various size. The two universities, we have the University for Agricultural Science located nearby here, and Uppsala University together with 60,000 students. And all this together provides knowledge-intensive industrial sectors, which is a very key part in the collaboration between the universities and the city administration. There are, of course, challenges and also very ambitious climate goals in Uppsala. The city council has decided to aim to be fossil fuel-free by 2030 and also climate positive by 2050. And this raises a lot of challenges, of course, to make this happen. And this is also one of the main topic and main theme in the collaboration agreement. Among these challenges, there are also challenges around integration, transport, energy, digitalization, and food, just to mention a few challenges. And you will learn more about this the coming days, but Uppsala City is creating very innovative model districts. And I think this is a really important part in the collaboration agreement, because we can use this innovation approach in the city building strategies as a research infrastructure, and having a lot of strong collaboration within these areas broadly on the university to try out and to utilize research in real life. I want to give you some description about the purpose and the background for this collaboration. Starting off with this, the very crucial part is collaboration is the key, but mutual benefits is a key part in the collaboration, in the strategic collaboration. So when we establish this structure, we always navigate the key drivers and topics towards a mutual benefit. And depending on if you are the university side or the external party, there can be some central key drivers and that we want to highlight and we want to emphasize built into the agreement. And as previous speakers mentioned, it's truly important with the executive management and the involvement in this agreement. And this is the structure we have, that the executive management of the two organizations are involved in the collaboration and they meet on a regular basis. And I think that is a very, very central and important part. And we also link this collaboration agreement to the Uppsala University mission, goals, and strategies. So this is why we call this, it's a strategic agreement for collaboration. And the strategic part is one thing to see it is that we use it university widely, and also that it's linked to the mission, goals, and strategy of the university. Just to give you some parts of the framework within this agreement. So we do have this partnership agreement. It's signed and it's a long-term agreement. And also, just to bring it to be a little bit more specific, we link an action plan to this agreement to be specific around the tasks that will be handled within this agreement period, and it's updated yearly or every second year. And we do have a process where we involve stakeholders and researchers and the city administration professionals in this, and also a steering committee that we decide upon this, and also the involvement of the top-level executive board in each organization. So everyone is informed, and the prioritization of what we should do within this agreement is set. And we also have specific roles. I'm representing the partnership leader at the university side, and we have these roles replicated on the external partner side. So in the city administration, there are a partnership responsible. There are partnership leader, and we meet on regular basis. And then we can take care of both the research representative and the relevance for research, but also facilitating the progress in the partnership in a very good way. I want to stress out some key drivers for collaboration, and from Uppsala University side, it's mutual interest. It's extremely important. Sustainable development is a key driver for collaboration within this agreement. And also using this agreement not only to inform and reach out with the research, but also strengthen the quality and relevance in the research. I think it's a crucial part in this. Local presence is important for the university, and also a research impact, of course. And on the other hand, on the city of Uppsala, they see the key drivers, knowledge and research concerning sustainable development more specifically. And also, the public and private sector demands in the knowledge-intensive labor, and the theme and topic of lifelong learning is key drivers in this. One could argue that, and once again, this is the PIN code, as Coco mentioned, for the doors 1477. One could argue that the collaboration has been along for, since the university was established. But in this framework within the strategic partnership collaboration, it started off with the letter of intent and memorandum of understanding that was signed back in 2016. And as you can see here, supporting collaboration and strengthen collaboration between the areas around, sustainable development and reskilling. We formed this partnership agreement signed it in 2019, the last period. And the main topic of the partnership was sustainable built environment. And quite recently, the end of last year, we shifted a little bit when we re-signed this partnership agreement and written sustainable development to include all dimensions of sustainable development within this partnership agreement. So it's not only about the built environment, it's also about taking care of the existing structures, which is very important for both parties in this. We also added the focus on communication, because I think it's a very important part of inspiring and giving examples of what we have done. It can inspire to new collaboration opportunities, and the communication is a really, really important part in the agreement and in the collaboration process per se. I also want to stress out that not all collaboration that's taking part between the city and the university is handled within this agreement. And this picture is showing some key stakeholders in the Uppsala innovation supporting system. And it ranged from the university, venture capital, private sector, and academia, and public sector. So having that said, that we're using this agreement when we can emphasize and initiate new possibilities and new opportunities around collaboration. But we are not dealing with existing structures when collaboration is ongoing. We are happy about that. So just to give you, this is not a total list, but just some examples of what has been done and the results, having this, the outcome, having this collaboration partnership. We have co-financed the PhD and the postdocs. The PhD is within energy system, looking at sustainable solutions in energy systems. We have a tool, financial tool and seed funding for initiating collaboration, and that is verification for collaboration. And we have funding opportunities to initiate new collaboration projects within this concept of verification for collaboration. AIM Day, you will experience and learn more about that by tomorrow. But we have done during these years some AIM Day sessions and exchanging knowledge and initiating new collaboration possibilities by using the toolkit for collaboration that has been developed at Uppsala University in a very strong way. I think a crucial part is also networking and matchmaking, since we are big organizations, both Uppsala University and the city of Uppsala. It's sometimes very difficult to know how to reach out and how to approach if you have a collaboration idea. And I think that it's very good that we have the structure and know how to navigate and good go-to persons in each organization. And that will speed up the process to initiate and start to discuss around collaboration opportunities. We also have initiate a research program, Urban Lab, and it's a multidisciplinary research environment, and some of the research questions are highlighted in this page. And I think many of the questions and many of the topics that was raised about the ambassadors is addressed in this research environment. And we are now keen to moving this forward with this research environment and see how this can be developed in a very positive way. And say something about the Urban Lab. The structure is that researchers are meeting with city professionals working with strategic planning, and they're working very closely around identifying different topics and different areas where knowledge is needed as a basis for decision, but also understanding how to plan for a sustainable city in a very good way. So I think I sum up this by saying that collaboration is definitely a key, and I think it has been for both parties, City of Uppsala and Uppsala University, very, very beneficial to having this strategic collaboration agreement. And it's not static, it's very dynamic, I would say. So we are continuously developing this process and this framework, and also the collaboration that's takes part within this agreement as well. And I think it's time to open up for some questions, if there are any. Okay.
So I'm afraid, as you're such an engaged audience, we've already gone over time a little bit, and as we're in Sweden, we believe in the importance of coffee and fika as well to a good conference. So I'm afraid we can't take questions from the auditorium for Ole, but you will be here over
please
coffee.
Approach.
Yeah. And throughout the day. So please do approach and ask your questions in that format. As we've run over a little bit, we're extending the coffee break, so we'll reconvene here at 10 minutes past 11. So 11:10, for the session on universities and communities, creating meaningful stakeholder solutions. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ole, for your admission.